Hey, Niels Mahoney here from On Air Coach, another chitty chatty, and we're going not across the Atlantic this time. We're going across the Atlantic a lot of times. We're going and then to Brisbane, Australia, and Julia Baker. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, Julia.
Good night. It's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, you're doing all right. You've had the full day gone. How was the day for you so far? Was it all right?
It was excellent. Do you know what? I'm really getting used to this lockdown. I'm enjoying it. Initially, I thought, well, because all my shows have been cancelled. I do reptile shows.
Yeah.
So all of my shows have been cancelled. And at first it was a bit, okay. But then you've got to accept it. What can you do? You can't do anything. So then I really got into it. And I thought, you know what? I don't have to do anything. And because by nature I'm a rebel, I really like that. It's like, I don't have to do anything now. I want to do something because there weren't any expectations. So every day now I meditate, I do yoga, which I've never done in my whole life before. I'm working on another TV show. I've just finished a book actually. So I don't mind it, but I do miss my kids.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. You are doing well. We live in a little island just off Malta, right? That's where we live. But none of our kids live here. And when you have the choice, you can go, we'll fly up and we'll see them sometime, or they can come down here. They can go, but when you're not allowed to, it's a whole different ball game, isn't it? It's kind of, now I want to. Now I want to do all that stuff I didn't do ever. Now I want to do it. So fair play to you. A lot of people are climbing the walls. You're not climbing the walls at all, no?
No. I'm quite fortunate that way because my parents always moved around a lot when I was younger, and I've had to adapt to different countries 3 times in my life, different cultures, different situations, and I think the more that you go through in life, the easier you adapt, and I just adapt. It's not a problem. Yeah.
Well done. I'm the same, actually. I moved around a lot. My dad worked in the airlines, so I kind of get it. Where did you live when you were a kid? Where did you go? Where
everywhere. So my mum's English and my dad's German, and they met in Bermuda. They were working there.
Of course.
Actually, I know. And they actually immigrated out to Australia. So I was actually born in Brisbane. Mum was pregnant when they came out here. And then after about 2.5 years, Mum got really homesick, so they went back. And then we lived in Germany for 2 years. We lived in the UK for 5 years, so that's why I've got the English accent. And then back to Germany. And then when I was 24, I found out I could get the Australian passport and came out here. And so that's been 27 years now.
Nice one. What's life like in Brisbane? Is it a good town?
I love it. I love Brisbane. I love it. Look, I think every country is wonderful in its own way. And I think depending on your personality, I spent most of my life in Germany, and don't get me wrong, I love Germany. We go there on holiday almost every year.
That's not an expression you hear every day. I love Germany. You don't always hear that expression.
Oh, I do. No. For a holiday, I love it. I didn't quite fit in with the culture so much because I'm a bit, like I said, I'm a rebel. I'm not very good, put it in a box.
Oh, yeah. Wrong country for that.
Yeah. So I think Australia is the land of freedom. It really is. And if you're into wildlife, it's perfect. We've got such a great variety of animals that you'll never see anywhere else in the world. There's about, 95% of our reptiles are only in Australia. You'll never see them anywhere. So it's a real unique country. And you get a real sense of freedom because there's so much space. And the great thing about Australia is you can change careers, you can start businesses. The downside is that you're not always going to get a great quality because anybody can start a business pretty much. There are some rules and that, but it's a lot easier than in Germany.
Now, how long have you been doing Snake Boss? That's about 5 years now, is it? You've been doing that show?
We only filmed 2 seasons. We haven't done any further one. I've actually written a show now. Yeah.
So you started 5 years, about 5 years ago. You were baking, I believe, before that. Was that your career? You were a baker first, or was that your thing?
I was a 5-star pastry chef, if you don't mind.
Exactly. There you go. Talk yourself up. Go for it. You're dead right. That takes study, that takes time, and that takes commitment.
I actually did 2 apprenticeships. I actually did 2 apprenticeships in Germany. So basically what happened was when I was in Germany, and I had to learn the language, but I'm not academically smart, and I don't learn through a classroom. I can't. I've got to be moving while I'm learning. It's got to be sort of I'm a hands-on person. So I flunked really, really bad at school. I got kicked out when I was 16, and I was, like I said, I was a real rebel.
Good on you.
Dad said to me, well, you've got to do an apprenticeship. You've got to do something. You've got to get a qualification. You do in Germany anyhow. And the only qualification, the only apprenticeship that I could get with my school marks was a baker. And I liked food. So I went, yeah, why not? And I actually really, really enjoyed it. I did 3 years of a baker's apprenticeship. And then I went on and did 2 years in confectionery making and, you know, ice cream and all the beautiful, like really high skilled stuff. And then I came out here and worked in all the 5-star hotels. So I did enjoy it until I had my own children. And then working in hotels is just, it's too hard when you've got a family.
Yeah, but you have your own new family with all the reptiles and everything. I'm guessing.
I do. That's a funny story, actually. So I went from working in the 5-star hotels and having my kids, and I was always really chubby, right? Not chubby anymore. Look, not chubby anymore.
Look at that. What a woman.
Really big. I was really chubby, and I was a really good pastry chef. But the problem is that I wanted to be slim, and I lost 27 kilos of weight. I don't know what that is in pounds, but it's a lot.
Do I. Sounds a lot.
A couple of dress sizes. And I lost that after I had my second daughter, and I was still working as a pastry chef. But the problem is, if you're working with a lot of sugar, you start getting the taste of that. You can't stop. It's so addictive. So I decided to give my career away as a pastry chef, and I actually became a Weight Watchers leader. So I worked for Weight Watchers for 3.5 years.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, I can see.
And I love that too.
There's still no thread from pastry chef to Weight Watchers to reptiles. I'm still trying to find the thread. Where's that thread?
So the first time I ever saw a snake in my life was here in Australia, and it was, let me see, I was about 36. So it was long time ago, 15 years ago. 15? Yeah, I'm 51 now. So it was a long time ago. And I was there with my ex-husband. We were at Australia Zoo, and they've got this massive python that you can get a photo taken with. So I thought I'd really like to do that. I've always loved animals, always, right. But I just didn't have the school marks to do anything with animals. And so as I'm standing in the queue waiting for them to put the big python around my shoulders, I could hear everybody else in disgust, like not just disgust, but hate for the snake.
Wow.
And I couldn't understand that. I couldn't understand how somebody could hate. I understand fear, but not hate. We shouldn't hate anything on the planet. There's nothing to hate. The planet's perfect. And so when they put this poor snake around my shoulders, I kind of resonated with it because I felt my whole life had been like that. I'd often been judged because I was a rebel. I wasn't good at school. I was always chubby. You know, I used to have a mullet. That wasn't probably the best thing. And
it's always a good look.
My dad, oh God, that's a whole new story. Anyhow, so I really felt sorry for this snake, and I kind of shed a tear for it. But I didn't know that. I knew that there's nothing I could do. And then a couple of years later, I went through a divorce with my ex-husband, and I got really, really depressed. And in fact, so bad that I would wake up with tears. I was crying in my sleep. I really did love him, and it was just not nice.
Yeah, that's life, isn't it? That's life. We've all been in those shoes at some point, or will be. Yeah.
I know, it's your happy ever after that's just come to an end. So I started picking up some really good books, and I'd already started with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And then I came across a very, very good book that I highly recommend to everybody from Jack Canfield called The Success Principles.
I've read it. I've read it multiple times. Yeah.
And it's nice and practical.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I was 40. I'm alone in Australia with 2 little girls. They were 6 and 8, my daughters, and we were doing Week About with my ex. Now, we weren't talking. We've actually only just started to talk after 11 years. It wasn't a nice situation at all. And here is a book that for the first time in my life tells me I'm allowed to have dreams.
Do you know what
and I'm like, are you serious? You mean I'm actually allowed to want things that I want to do?
Yeah.
And I knew that there was no point in me looking for another relationship because I was in a pattern. I was in a pattern of attracting the wrong kind of men, and I knew why. I knew my self-esteem was just shot. It was absolutely crap. I didn't think I was worthy. So I thought, what is going to get me to think that I'm worthy in order to attract a decent man, right? So I wrote a list of all the things I've always wanted to do.
I love a good list.
I wrote a bucket list. Yeah, I've still got it in my diary.
Good on you.
And the list, top of the list was to get a pet snake, because I remember the snake in the zoo, and I thought, I want a pet snake. I want to live with a snake. That would be cool. So I got my first pet snake, Jesse. He was a black and gold jungle python. I've still got him. He's dead now. He's in the freezer, actually.
Oh, bless. It's nice to visit on weekends.
He's in a little coffin. It's so cute.
Wow.
I want to get him stuffed one day. That's the only reason. I don't do that with all my pets, but
Jesse was... You have a dead snake in a coffin in your freezer. Sure. Okay, let's just roll with that one and keep moving. That's perfect.
I know. And then I wanted to be an actress, because that was another thing I wanted to be when I was a little girl. So I went and enrolled in the Actors Conservatory, and I studied acting for 2 whole years. So I had my pet snake. Then I wanted a motorbike, so I went and did my motorbike license. And you know what? Every time I did one of these things, it made me feel great. And I wasn't good at them. I mean, acting, I was hopeless at acting. I spent a fortune. I studied it 2 years full time. I was the oldest person in the whole school, because all the others ones are young actors. But you know what? I had the time of my life. It was finally, I felt like I was finally doing something that I wanted to do, and not what other people told me I should be doing. And I loved it. I was, like I said, I'll tell you how bad I was, right? This is how bad I was, or I am at acting. They made me sign a statutory declaration form stating I would never use my American accent that I'd learnt there and claim that I'd learnt it there. And Shakespeare as well. Otherwise, they weren't going to give me my diploma. So that's how bad I was.
You said, deal. Where do I sign? Where do I sign?
It's fine. Yeah. And then what, and then 2 years ago, they gave me an award for the highest achievement coming out of the school because I got the TV show.
Yeah, there you go. They like you now. Yeah.
Yeah, they like me now. That's all right. I had fun. And then I met, I dated very briefly a snake catcher, a guy from England that's come over, and he was a snake catcher. And I was single mum with the girls working for Weight Watchers. I do Punch and Judy shows as well. So I've always been an entertainer. That's kind of been a side hustle for me. And I thought, I could do that. There's a bit of money in it. I don't mind. I love snakes. Love to see them in wild. And that's how I got on the snake catching thing. Now, in the meantime, I'd graduated from the Actors Conservatory, and I still wanted to have some kind of, I wanted to be on TV. I've always loved entertaining. And then, so I signed up with an agency, and I went all for these auditions, and I'll never get a speaking role because I'm stuck with this voice and with this accent. And then one day, I had this idea for the TV show. I thought, okay, actually, I'll go back a bit. I got myself a role model. Okay. I went looking, you'll never guess who it was. I went looking for a role model who's on TV, and I thought, what about if there's somebody on TV that doesn't have massive talent, or he had struggles, or she, and got to it? And I found somebody, and his story inspires me. It will inspire me forever, and it's Sylvester Stallone. Okay. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't got talent, because he has. He's got a lot of talent. But I don't, when you start off, you're probably not that skilled. I don't know if you know his story. Sylvester Stallone always wanted to be a Hollywood actor, and he got some small roles, but he just couldn't get anywhere. He's actually quite short, and he's got that thing going with his lip, and nobody wanted him. So one day he wrote his own script. He wrote Rocky. And he took it around, and he got rejected 1 million times. And then he got so poor that he had to sell his dog, to feed himself and his wife. And he kept taking this script around until finally one producer said, I'll buy the script off you, but I don't want you in it. I want Robert Redford in it. We want somebody famous. And he said no. Yeah. Because he knew this was his only chance. And the rest is history. So he got the role. He brought his dog back. And I just went, I've got to write my own role. And that's how I came up with a TV show. And I thought, that's the role for me. I'm doing what I love doing. I'm catching snakes. I also wrote a list for my dream husband. I'm married to him. I wrote a list of exactly what I wanted in a man 9 years ago. 2 weeks, down to the fact that I wanted somebody Scottish.
And you got a Scottish man. Well done.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting to say about the Jack Canfield book and whatnot, but like I said, I read that. That was the first book. My recollection of that, I was thinking to myself, this is the first book that was written about me. I didn't realize somebody wrote a book about me, because everything related, right? Everything related to me. Yeah. I was talking to a guy called David Kay. He's a voice actor in Los Angeles last week. And I've known David a long time. But David had the exact same outlook as you. He said, I asked him, because I remember speaking with him years ago, and he had a plan. And he had his vision of what he wanted to do. He wanted to move to a nice part of North Vancouver where he was from. He wanted to move to LA and become a voice artist. And now he's the top voice artist in the world living in LA. And I asked him, how did you do that? And he goes, I just saw it. He said, I just went for it, and nothing was going to stop me. I just had this vision. And he said, you have to feel it. You have to actually own it. You have to feel it inside you.
Do you know what I used to do? Absolutely. And I think that's the part that a lot of people get confused, because they think they can just wish it. There's a difference between a wish.
Yeah.
You can wish it and you can visualize it. But and it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think there's some good techniques. I mean, you can get some music going and pump yourself up. And I do a lot of meditating now, and I just get excited. But I watch the words that I use, and you know, the language, you know, and I talk about it in very enthusiastic. But for the TV show, I mean, it literally was a miracle. It was a miracle. I mean, I don't know anybody in the TV industry. I was already with my husband, and that's a funny story. That's a miracle story. So I wrote this list. Scottish, he had to be tall. I went through and I thought, after 2.5 years of being single and dating the wrong men, I thought, I need somebody he's got, you know, how do I say this? He doesn't have to compliment me, but I don't want to have to compromise myself anymore and change myself into somebody I don't want. This is who I am. Isn't it better just to look for somebody who's like me? And this is what I wrote. I want somebody who's spontaneous. I'm not, you know, just get up and go. Who's mature, responsible for his own behaviour, tall. I like dark hair. That's just me personally. Scottish because, I don't know, I was just very particular. I didn't think it was going to work. I did not think it was going to work. And he's everything on that list. And I can honestly say it's a match in heaven. I absolutely adore that man. He walks in a room and it's like the sun comes up. Everybody loves him. He's a beautiful man.
It does show you that, like we say, when you think about it and then feel it and then try to live it. I mean, it is hard, right? And we always say this to people. We say, how do I visualize this and how do I make it happen? You're going to wake up in the morning and you can't be bothered some mornings. Oh, geez, I can't be bothered visualizing my future life because you're in your real life right now and it doesn't feel it. So just, it's almost, it becomes a daily habit nearly, doesn't it? Just to kind of...
I've got I'll show you. Actually, I think I can take me with you. All right, I'll show you what I've got on my fridge. Can you see?
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah.
So that there is a list. I do a list every January. You know, whenever, it doesn't have to be on the 1st, 2nd, or whatever. I do it when I want to do it, and I do a list, and I pick probably about 6 things that I want to achieve that year. And I do 1 sentence, and then I always get a picture of something that, you know, resembles it, or a picture of me doing it, or something, or Photoshop it, or just a clip art, something like that. Now, I did that with the TV show as well. I've done that with lots of things, so it's not a one-off thing with my husband. With the TV show, what I did with the TV show is I used to walk around the shopping centre because I was still working for Weight Watchers, and I used to internally, but I have got a good imagination, so that helps. It got me into a lot of trouble when I was younger, but right now it's really helped me, you know. And I would imagine that I'm famous. And I would walk around the shop and I'd go, oh, look, she knows who I am and he knows. And I would just in my head, just that's it.
That's it.
And then the key is you have to go looking. And by that, just don't get too fixed on anything. I would just be on the internet. And there's a website called Star Now. You would know it.
No, I do know it. I do know. Yeah.
I was on that website and I just thought, I'm just going to look everywhere. How can I get this TV show happening? I had sent in my idea to the TV channels, but they don't even reply. You've got to have producers on board. You've got to sell in ideas. It doesn't work. Yeah. So on Star Now, they were looking for people that had inspiring career changes. And I thought, well, you know, I have. So I sent them in my story. And I kid you not, within half an hour, they had an editor ringing me up from Women's Day. They flew him out the next day and he did a big feature on me. And I told him about my idea with the TV show. And he said, oh, it's brilliant. You've got everything, you know. You catch snakes. I had a motorbike with a sidecar. That was a miracle too, that sidecar. I visualized it. And once again, within 2 weeks, I got a sidecar for the exact amount of money that I had in the bank, $1,500. And a 2-seater for my daughters in the same color as my motorbike. I mean, it's just, I've done this over and over and over again. It does work. But I don't think that the universe just gives it to you. I've had loads of obstacles where I've had to grow to get what I wanted. And in hindsight, I look back and go, thank God the universe didn't just give them to me, because I would have been some spoiled brat and I wouldn't have learned out of it. So I'm really glad, you know, everything. I mean, on this Star Now thing. So I was featured in Women's Day, and at this stage, I didn't know where I could get a TV show happening. I really didn't. I was in a magazine, that was it. And that came and went. And it was 4 months afterwards, and I put it on my goal, on my fridge, to be on a TV show. and I visualized as much as I could just when I was feeling good about myself. And I thought, I know this is going to work. I know I've got the references. I can see it in my brain. It's a formula. I mean, snakes, they're deadly. You've got steaks. I can get my message out there about snakes. They're important. I've got my husband on board. We take the motorbike and the sidecar off. We go, we go catch. It's brilliant. I knew it would work. So I think that is another key that, there's no point me visualizing that I'm going to be a supermodel or an opera singer when I haven't got a voice. That's silly.
Yeah, I think there's an American salesman, he's passed on now, called Zig Ziglar, and he used to say,
I know him, yeah.
Yeah, Zig used to say about visualizing. He said, visualizing is great, but I can't visualize that I'm an NBA basketball player. He's like a 72-year-old white guy from Alabama. He goes, so, he says you can visualize, but be realistic as well, or at least focus on something that you can actually achieve rather than something you can't achieve. So there's always that.
Do you know what? I wouldn't even say realistic. I would say visualize something that you've got references, because you've got, I did have some references. It wasn't just that I visualized a TV show. It's that I had a very good formula for a TV show. And I knew it. I just knew it. And I just didn't know how to make it happen. So, I mean, I don't think, if you come up with I don't know, I just want a TV show about me, but you've got nothing to offer. Well, you can visualize it all you can. You really need that formula. And then what happened was a production company saw me in the magazine, and they called me the day after I had actually been online looking for production companies and looked at theirs. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. They're females, and I've got a female behind a camera on my goal list. And that's how magic happened. Yeah. And it was very successful. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on everything. We're going to have to wrap this up. It's been a real joy talking to you, Julia. Thanks for your time.
It went too quick.
I know, they fly by, don't they?
Oh, one quick thing. I did bring somebody. It's not a snake. It's not a snake.
What have we got?
Because it's too hard, but I did bring something.
Look at that. Is that a dragon?
It's a bearded dragon, yeah.
We used to have a bearded dragon. He passed away.
They're awesome. Did you?
Yeah, we did. Wow, that's hilarious.
Hey, just quickly, you'd agree with me. When I do my reptile shows, I always tell the kids there's one thing I don't like about them.
Yeah.
I wonder if you agree with me. They do really, really stinky poos, don't they?
Not the best, shall we say. Not the best.
I think they're bloody stinky.
You might need the air spray a little bit after those guys. Yeah, but look at them. They're so cool and easygoing, aren't they? They're like, hey, what's going on, man? What'd you do?
I call them the Jamaicans of the lizard world, because they look like they're stoned all the time.
They move once a week. Julia, thanks so much. Pleasure talking to you.
You too. See ya. See you next. Bye.